I'm live. Yay. Going on, friends, family, good people. Having another awesome. I feel like I'm reading off a script almost when I say that. Having another awesome, another day in quarantine. What would it be now since the, I know in New York State was around like mid-March, so I'll say the 16th, the same day as declared a national emergency. So almost 2 months and about 5 days it'll be. Getting come on. Also can't spell for some reason. But yeah, hopefully you all are having a fantastic Monday. I will say weather-wise, not as bad as it was. This weekend was ridiculous. And if you live in the Northeast, you know what I'm talking about. It was so stupidly cold for Mother's Day, and it pissed me off as to how absolutely, like, first of all, Saturday, it was like there was a whiteout several times. A whiteout in May. We're getting there. One more. I wish there was a way to like do it all up at once, but without having like 30 tabs open, it's not worth it. Okay. So I'm going to call that, we'll call that a success. So, yeah, if you lived in the Northeast, it was it was whiteouts, which really sucked because I had a deal worked out with somebody where I was going to meet them near Destiny Mall in Syracuse. If you live in Syracuse, you know I believe that's like the largest mall in the state. Because I didn't want to drive out through a bunch of twists and turns and whiteout conditions. I didn't want to, but that's kind of going to go into my reselling stories a little bit. So I was going through Facebook Marketplace on my lunch break, and I noticed that somebody was selling, and I have it over there, and I don't want to get up. Somebody was going through. See, I'm going to kill the light. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Now I can't win. Let's get the other light. Okay. Some light, but not a ton. Anyway, so the arrangement was they're selling an expansion to Settlers of Catan called Traders and Barbarians. It adds new pieces, several new stories and expansions to the actual game, and it was brand new in the package. I went and looked it up. New copies sell on Amazon for right now around $45, and that was marked down from $55. And I thought, this is the game. Like Settlers of Catan, a lot of people don't like it, and I can understand why. This is the game that a lot of people people really don't like for the dumbest reasons. I myself, I got invited over to a friend's house and I played it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I decided this will probably be the game that I build off of. And then I got my wife to play it and I got family members to play, and it's a lot of fun. And I can understand if some people don't get it. They see it, and I guess part of it is they're so used to really, really light games. I say light games, even though Monopoly really isn't light in theory, but people really don't know. But Monopoly is more frustration than it is fun. Settlers of Catan for me is a good gateway game to the franchise for the tabletop gamer, but I can understand why people wouldn't like it. It's very focused on luck and just complete and total randomness, but they do have a bunch of expansions for that game. I currently have the core game, the 5 to 6 player expansion, which honestly 6-player Catan is a lot of fun, especially if you're with a nice close-knit group of people, and then the personalities come out and you really learn a lot about some people. It's really funny. I have the Star Trek version, which is pretty cool, although it is a little harder to follow on this because this is the one that uses character cards. And they do have an expansion to that game, but it doesn't have a 5th and 6th player. It just gives you a bigger map, which I felt was really silly because this game needs more players. The map, in my opinion, should have already been bigger to begin with. But I have those two. I found Catan Jr. at Goodwill, and I bought the Traders and Barbarians off of the person on the Facebook sale. So I didn't read all of the instructions, but I will say that it's basically it's a co-op experience as opposed to a competitive, where every turn the barbarians get closer to taking over the land, the more you develop your towns and your civilizations. So it's definitely a work against the clock type situation. Maybe one day I'll do a review on it. I haven't decided yet. On good news, I was able to breathe a little bit of new life, I should say, right into this computer, which is nice because the battery was discharging very, very, really badly. But I worked a little magic on it, and I got to work just fine. So pretty happy about that. So this is one of the sales where everything went fine. There were no problems. They originally wanted me to meet them out in Baldwinsville. They gave me their address. I looked it up on my phone, and I realized that once I got off the highway, I was going to be doing at least 15 minutes of back road traveling. And in the state of New York, if you make a wrong turn, you are really screwed if you can't turn around. Like, there have been a few instances where if you get on the wrong road, and God forbid you get off the wrong exit on the highway in New York, because they will not get you back on where you need to go anytime soon. Thankfully, they are major routes that'll they'll have you back travel for 20 minutes, but you'll get there. So I said to him, hey, I'll buy this. The only one at 30, but again, it sells for 45, if not more. And it's an expansion that isn't sold on Target or Walmart shelves. So I was like, you know what? I'll buy it for 30. I had the extra cash from making sales, which is what we'll get into more reselling stories, because I have been selling and buying a good amount of stuff. Again, still hobby. I don't plan on making it my career. But this week was a little on the lighter side. I had told you I'd already sold the RAM, the GPU. The GPU story, that had a weird conclusion to it, man. It really did. The GPU story, after the guy said he had all those problems, I was trying to reach back out to him, and I never heard back from him. So either he got it to work, or he somehow convinced himself that I had screwed him over, and now he doesn't want to get back and doesn't want to talk to me. So I'm like, I haven't severed the line of communication, but it sounds to me almost like he's self-sabotaging himself so he can say he had the last word. So I will say this week, and I talked about this on Facebook, comment in the live feed if you've got anything you want to add. I will say this. People in the marketplace have really started to lose their minds. Now, clearly, I think a lot of it is with what's going on with COVID. A lot of people are trying to offload their goods and their services to make money, especially because I believe it was in April, 20 million people lost their jobs. That's a lot. In numbers form, 10% of the population would be around 33 million. So we're looking at somewhere, I think I'd say around 7% of people, 7% of the American total population lost their jobs. And I believe I couldn't really give total numbers as to how much that could mean, because the actual number of people who work compared to the people who actually live in the United States is vastly different. I think that number is actually almost like between half and 2/4. So I get that people want to sell their goods and their services to make some money, especially if they got to sit home. Although I'd argue you're getting paid a good amount of money from unemployment based on what the stories I've been hearing. But then again, I've also been hearing that a lot of people haven't been able to get through to unemployment. So anyway, I can understand the argument that people are trying to sell their goods and services online to make some money, I get that. Some people are really starting to take it a little too far. And I will say there should at least be a couple of things. Number one, there should be some level of respect as it pertains to the potential buyer. I kid you not. There was one kid who was offering his services to build computers. And he said that he would, for $100, put your computer together, but you clearly would have to buy all the parts. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm a firm believer in, with the power of the internet, you can teach yourself to do some pretty cool things. Building a computer is definitely one of them. There are a lot of channels on YouTube that can help you learn how to build computers. Now, granted, there could be some stuff in there you might need help with. I understand that. However, this should not be a $100 job, considering the fact that you are literally taking parts and putting them into a computer, and you're just wiring everything. Literally, it's almost like it's the adult equivalent of Legos almost. Like, you put the motherboard in the case, you screw it down, you can put your RAM in, you put your CPU in, and it's a step-by-step process. It really shouldn't take more than a couple of hours. Even if someone were to take their time, it really shouldn't take longer than that. This guy felt as though, at the very least, if this took him 4 hours, $100 means that he is getting paid $25 an hour. $25 an hour to essentially put together a computer that Amazon will send to you already pre-installed for anywhere between $60 and $80. So $100 is pushing it. I've seen some people offer like 60. Oh, but if it's an ultimate gaming PC, it's 100 and above. And no, don't fall for that. And then I go to check out their commerce profile, and a lot of them are people who. One of them was a guy who was trying to offer his services to shovel driveways in the winter. And you know what? Bless his heart. But when you see stuff like that, literally someone offering their services, raking leaves, shoveling snow, walking dogs, and they're not a kid. Like, this is someone in their late 20s. And then they're going to turn around and be like, I can build your computer for you for $100+. And I'm immediately no. I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to a friend who does build computers for kind of like a hobby, and he said no. And the only time he would even ever consider that is if like Amazon would offer someone to come and install it for you, which they do offer to do that. They offer, or did offer, to send someone to your house to install everything. There's actually a few videos of Amazon doing that, but they're also charging a ridiculous amount of money. Or they could have someone pre-install it there and send it to you, which then they become 100% liable for. And if it doesn't work, then they then have to either refund it back or they have to come and repair it for free. So I've seen a lot of that. A lot of people selling used goods for really silly market values, especially video games for that matter. I get people like want to play video games, and I definitely get now people want to find things to do to occupy their time. I went into Walmart just to look at computers, and I had one employee walk up and ask me if I needed something. I told him no, I was just looking around. And then another guy walked right up and said, just so you know, we have no computers, which I found really funny because he had 3 towers and 2.5 rows full of laptops. Now, those are store models, and they might not be able to sell them. Cool. But still, you clearly have some. Can I just buy a floor model, please? Oh, my gosh. So I get that people want to buy stuff because they want something to do, because, they're inside all day. I get that. But then you got people who are taking it way too far and are trying to get as much money out of you as humanly possible, and that's not cool. People charging top dollar for GameCube games that are used. Like, somebody was selling a Luigi's Mansion. Actually, I'm gonna look this up on eBay right now, just for peace of mind. Somebody was selling a Luigi's Mansion for GameCube, used, not brand new. Okay. They were selling it. I think they had it for $55 $55. Let's see. One was bought yesterday for $45, and that had no manual. Somebody paid $5 for the case and manual for Luigi's Mansion and Mario Golf with no games for $35. Somebody sold a complete copy of $55. European version went for $34. $55, $5 shipping. $40 with just the game, $45 complete in box. That was sold yesterday. So 64. So it's hovering between this. It's definitely hovering between the 40 and 60 at the absolute highest. At the absolute highest, I saw it was $60, and then I saw ones that were selling for 40 and a few dollars under. So I think $40. I think $45 is pretty fair. Guy was selling it for $55 and claimed that's $20 lower than what it's going for on eBay. And clearly that's not true. So, especially GameCube games, people are trying to sell those for top value. And understand, eBay is still a viable option. And seeing as how, especially, if you're going to put in your ad, pick up in your area only, be careful because people are going to be like, okay, well, you're going to want top value and I got to go pick it up. So explain to me why I'm paying absolute top dollar for it. No, you can knock off you can knock off $10 since I'm going on my way to get it. I remember one time I was going to buy a Dreamcast. Oh my God, I love a Sega Dreamcast. I was going to go and buy a Sega Dreamcast, and I messaged the guy about if it was still available because it was $50 for a Dreamcast and a handful of games. Nothing too rare, but I saw Crazy Taxi in there, Virtua Tennis, which I love, weirdly love. The House of the Dead, I believe it was the second one, House of the Dead 2, and a couple others. And the guy said it was $50. And I said, okay, would you mind if we, test this? Now, this was years ago. I mean, I don't even think Facebook didn't have a marketplace then for sure, but years and years ago. Yeah, it was definitely on Craigslist, and we're emailing, and I asked if there was a possibility that I could at least see that it works. And I didn't get a response. And then I emailed him like 8 hours later. Just, hey, I haven't heard back from you. I'd like to just test it and see if it works. Got no answer. So I kind of left it alone. And then he emailed me 3 days later. Count them 3 days later. He emailed me 3 days later and said, oh, well, he's got to come into the area for work so he can drop it off, and he'd be willing to knock off money for it. And right then and there, I knew the writing on the wall. I'm like, okay. So chances are this thing clearly doesn't work, or he doesn't know that if it works. So I told him, I said, never mind. If I cannot fully see it working, then I'm gonna obviously go elsewhere. And then proceeded to get mad. Or at least I interpret it as him getting mad because he then emailed me immediately back stating, oh, well, thanks for stringing him along. And then I replied, well, that's the fastest you've gotten back to me yet. Funny how it only took me calling you out on trying to sell potentially broken merchandise for you to actually get back to me. Let's see how soon it will be until you get back to this one. And he never emailed me back. So sorry. I don't hold my tongue when it comes to people who I feel are being scumbags. And yeah, man, it's crazy how much people will try to manipulate and take advantage of you on the market. Like, it truly irritates me to no end. But you take what you can get with it, and you can do real good, or you do not so good. So So there was one story because I didn't do a whole lot of reselling. I'm probably gonna have more stuff up this week, but sorry, checking something on here. I listed first of all, I had a TV that I was gonna try and sell, but after really thinking about it and really putting it through some testing, I realized that it's a 40-inch Insignia TV from years ago, and it needs care. It needs to be worked on, and I wouldn't really feel right selling it to somebody because the issues that are wrong with it are not necessarily ones that are easily fixable. So I basically just tossed it in next to the dumpster in where I live, and I like somebody will grab it, and they did because it wasn't there 5 minutes later. So they'll probably get some use out of it. The sound was going in and out on it upon further inspection. The input was coming in, it was randomly resetting itself for the weirdest reason. So that was going to be a sale, but I inevitably counted against it, and I just said it's just be better to give it away. And I didn't, and at that point, I didn't even want to give it away to anyone I know. I'm like, I'll just give it away and put it by the trash because I don't want to upload it to someone I know personally, and then now that's something they got to put in with their trash. And no, there was only one sale this week, so hopefully some of you who are resellers had better weeks than I did. I'd put a PC tower with a motherboard, CPU, and a power supply in there. And I put in there, I'm like, it works, it powers on. I am currently unaware of the state this is in because I have not properly done testing on it. There may be an issue with the case cable for the sound because sound was an issue when I was trying to work on it. So understand this is the condition that it's currently in. So basically, I'm laying out if there's a problem, it's with the case. The case was the only boiling point because you can't. I don't believe you can. I don't believe the motherboard could be the issue for the sound. Maybe I was missing cables. I don't know, but I'm not an expert on computers. I know how to put them together, but I'm not an expert as to diagnosing these much more complicated issues. So I put all that stuff on there, make me an offer. I cannot begin to tell you how many times people were, first of all, people clearly can't read. People can't read. And that's okay if you legitimately can't read. But this is selective reading. I had one guy message me, oh, well, how much is it? And I said, well, it's an open offer ad, so make me an offer on it. Oh, what condition is it in? And I'm like, it works, it powers on, it'll get you to a login screen if you have a hard drive hooked up. However, I don't know I don't know about sound and I'm like, this is all listed in the description. I did not leave any of this out. So he's like, oh no, it sounds to me like the CPU may be broken. And I'm like, that doesn't sound reasonable at all, because if the sound goes, if the CPU is broken and the only thing that goes out is the sound, how does that work? So I had another guy offer to basically have me recycle it to him because that was the right thing to do. Okay. Don't know how I feel about that. I said no, because even the parts in here that still work do work. Again, the issue is with the case. But at the same time, I wasn't looking to make a ton of money off this. I was like, I'll take the first, I think I told my wife, I'll take the first $30, $40 offer that comes my way, which will easily cover the parts. Easily. Like even the power supply, I think, was worth like $30, $40 on its own. And then, of course, the CPU was worth about $40. The motherboard is like $20, $30. Cords, what have you. So finally, guy messages me, clearly knows electronics because he didn't beat around the bush. He just asked very straight up questions. He goes, will this power on? I said, yes. He says, do you have any issue getting to a BIOS screen? I told him no. He says, okay. And he threw me an offer of $60, and I immediately took it. And when he showed up, I gave him some extra cables that were left over that I forgot I had. So maybe that was the issue as to why it wasn't working. And that was it. He knew what he was doing. He knew computers. And I asked him if he does sell computers often, and he said that he does, except the issue he runs into is that he gets a lot of people who think they know everything about computers and all that stuff, and turns out they don't know anything. They ask a million and one unnecessary questions, and really all it does is just waste time. So that's the thing with computers I've found out is like a lot of people want to get into the PC gaming world, but a lot of people really don't know anything about it. Now, I'm still very new to it, but I know what it's capable of, and I'm definitely not one of those PC master race type people. I typically cannot stand PC master race arguments. I think it's kind of silly and petty almost. But with that said, I think, all gaming is to be enjoyed in many different ways, and I really don't appreciate too much the constant whining and bitching, especially with the communities that follow. They can get really toxic, where you got console fanboys that clearly have never played a computer game out of like math munchers when they were still in grade school, and it's I wish I could make heads or tails of it, but I cannot. I cannot. It's okay. But no, enjoy what you enjoy, like what you like. Don't put other people's down. If people like to play on consoles, so what? They're not asking for, and that's another thing too I found in the whole PC console debate. No one's really asking for your 2 cents if they don't directly ask you for your 2 cents. Like, I've had people say, "Oh, do you play on PC?" And I'm like, rarely, but mainly just the stuff I can't get on console. And they're like, "Oh man, it's so much better than console." And I'm like, you really need the right computer to do it. You really shouldn't be that dependent on if you own a computer, you can do these amazing things. No, there are computers that will run games much worse than consoles, but you don't talk about those. Like, those are some bottom tier gaming computers, which you really shouldn't be owning anyway. Or gaming on, I should say. They're more like video watchers. But yeah, a lot of people are trying to get into this whole PC gaming thing, and people are trying to sell their massively overpriced gaming PCs for ridiculous money. So understand that people do contain the power of looking on Amazon, looking on eBay, seeing how much these things go for, see how much the different parts go for, and can very easily learn how to build it themselves. So with that said, we are kind of closing the chapter reselling, and not too much this week. Not too much. I wish I had more. I think I might try to put a few more things on there the middle of this week. We will see. Probably be comic book related, but as we're getting ready to move, I want to try to make sure that all the stuff that I'm currently not getting any use out of, someone else can enjoy. And I'm not looking to become a millionaire doing it. So let's see. So as far as getting new games, let's see. There was the new Catan Traders and Barbarians, which was fun. Played Onitama for the first time last night with my wife, which is basically, it's chess, but with a very heavy, Japanese feel to it. Each person only has 5 pieces, 4 pawns, and 1 emperor. I'm calling it an emperor because there were no kings, to my knowledge, back then. So that was a lot of fun. A little slow, but it's fun. It's, first of all, the box is super cool. It's this giant. Actually, no, I'm gonna go get it. I'll be right back. actually, I got some stuff to show you. So, Onitama is this bad boy right here. My apologies for the lighting. So you're probably looking at this and saying, well, how do you get all that in here? Well, it opens up on the corner here. I believe, okay. It opens up like this. And all of your pieces, here's your rule book right here. And right here, so they have all the pieces lined up. Like all your pieces are right here. The board, oh, this is so neat. Oh, this is so cool. The game board, it's actually a card playmat that rolls up. And that is your board. Yep, your respective players will start on each of these sides. Your emperor will be here. And how the game works is each person will be dealt 2 cards, and those cards represent moves that any of your 5 characters can make. I got the cards right here. So, like, for instance, the crane right here, you'll notice they'll have the black dot or the black square right here. That's your character in the game. And any of the gray spots represent the location that piece can travel to. Now, you'll get 2 of these, and whenever you use one, you basically slide it over to the next character, then the other player, and then when they use one, they then take that and then slide it to you. And then there's a third card on the side, which cycles in and out whenever. And that's what I mean by it's slow chess, because these are not big moves. I don't think I've seen a single piece move in any direction, left, right, up, down, diagonally, more than 2. Everything's pretty tight knit, but it is 5 pieces per person. And the winning condition is you need to either take the enemy's emperor, or you need to get your emperor to go onto the starting player's emperor piece. So basically you got to take your king character and put it on their king starting piece. So if you're into slower games like chess, and I love the presentation on this. I think this is only like $17 brand new. So that was fun. I'm not much of a chess player, so that one takes a little bit out. I also got something really cool too, because my wife and I, when we do play games, it's usually after my kid goes to bed. And the thing is, like, we're been playing a lot of games that focus on dice. The problem is we're rolling dice on a table, whether it be my fold-out table or the glass table back there, and it makes a lot of noise. So I said, well, why don't we get a dice tray? And that's what this is. The cool thing with this is that this is a collapsible dice tray, and you can button the corners together. So it actually turns into a dice tray. Well, the inside is it just feels like it's felt like stitched right on top of leather, but it definitely dampens the sound of dice hitting a table, so you don't have to worry about that. And when you're done, you just unbutton it, and it fits anywhere. I mean, anywhere you could fit pieces of paper, you can slide this in. Although I will say that after one day of having it, this piece right here, the back part, I don't know if you can see that right here, where my middle finger is, that actually ended up coming off. So what I did was I got some super glue and a fastener, or file fastener, and I glued it down 2 times, and I just kept it fastened on here for, I'd say, at least an hour, and then let it air dry, and then it's working just fine. So bit of advice for anyone who wants to get into stuff like that, really look into quality, really look into, really make sure you're getting something that's going to last a little while. And I did find that as long as you can keep the actual fastener part there, your chances of it staying good for a long time is really good. Plus, I think this was like $8. And I know you can get sets of these. I think you can get like a set of 4 for around $20. And if you're very big into D&D especially, get sets of these so you can distribute them out to friends. So dice do not roll everywhere. I cannot. Oh, the memories of people. Me teaching D&D too. Some of the best things ever, but it's also some of the most frustrating things ever, because the one thing as a dungeon master I remember most of all, people are going to ask silly questions. That doesn't make me angry. It's people throwing their dice, and it's constantly on the floor, and I have to stop what I'm doing, and it drives me crazy, especially when you're playing in a basement, a very large basement, and stuff can get lost super easily. Learning things, brain power. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for coming by. Hopefully you're having a nice day. It is a little bleak out there, but it is nice. But definitely get these. They do sell these in hardwood with the felt on the inside. It's going to make noise when it hits the sides, obviously, but I'd rather have that than, having it roll on, having a bunch of dice roll on table. And especially in D&D, when you're rolling a bunch of dice at once, it can get to be annoying. And the cool thing with these is, like I said, you can get a bunch of them, and they're cheap. And if they do break, you can usually fix them for pretty cheap. The alternative to the other button, if it wasn't going to work, was going to be, it was actually going to be fastening it together regardless, and then just permanently sticking this together. Or the other option was going to be keeping this a dice tray at all times. Or the other one was going to be like a makeshift like hook that you can let go whenever you want. Slow sales, but I'm pressing on. I feel you. I didn't really post too much. I just got done talking about reselling stuff. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I sold a tower with a bunch of computer parts in it for $60. I think that was the only thing I listed this week. And that was after a sea of people asking me a bunch of questions about it, which clearly they don't read, selective reading. But oh well, it is what it is. And hopefully you get a better week. I'm been trying to keep my eye open on stuff that you sell, although to be perfectly fair, I don't really get notifications on stuff like that. If it doesn't come up in my casual scrolling through Facebook or eBay, I don't really look too much, but do what I can. Moving on, what other fun gaming stuff did we get? This I actually got from awesome. This I actually got in a trade with my brother. It's called House of Danger, which is a choose your own adventure type game. I believe there's only 2 of these to my knowledge, because I couldn't find anything else. And how this works is, I believe it says 1 or more players. I really don't think you want to have too many players with that game. We need to remember we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Sales aren't going to be normal. No, they're not. You're going to be up and down with that pretty frequently. But yeah, House of Danger, really cool little game. It's a co-op game where it's difficult to explain, but basically you flip cards that represent like pages from a book, and depending on certain actions, you will go to certain other pages. You'll get different results. You'll find hidden items. And based on what items you get, it allows you to do other things in the game. This one, you're searching a mysterious house with a lot of weird, that you're having really weird dreams about, because you're a psychic. So I've only gone through book number 1 in that with my wife. We enjoyed it, but I can definitely, I was really worried that it's a game that has very little consequence, because at the end of every negative thing that happened, it just said go back and redo it, which I found to be really, upsetting, because like that completely takes all of the risk out of the reward. So ended up getting that with the trade. I think I traded him I forget. I traded him. I forget the game. I forget the board game. I traded him, but he gave me this. This is like a $25 game. The other one is the evil something about like the evil Power Master or something. I don't know. So if you remember those old Goosebump books or those old stories where you choose your own adventure and you try like heck to get the best possible ending or the worst possible ending if you're a true masochist. And that's what that is. It's super fun. I recommend it a whole bunch. And yeah, here was the one I actually found my big find of the week. Catan Traders and Barbarians expansion. You play this alongside the core game of Catan. It just adds a whole new element to it. Gives you 5 new challenging scenarios: the Fishermen of Catan, the Rivers of Catan, the Caravans of Catan, or the Caravans, Barbarian Attack, and Traders and Barbarians. And they all do so. Basically, this one game gives you 5 different stories you can play that really change up the game and make it very different. So one of the biggest issues I've heard with people with Catan is that they just get tired of the same game over and over. And my usual thing is if you like rearrange tiles to intentionally, give low production items, that will slow the game down. And the other one, the last one, for now anyway, is a game called Monarch. And got to play this on Mother's Day with my mom, my wife, and my mother-in-law. And the cool thing is they're all very much into board gaming, and it's usually fun to get them all there and have them try new stuff. So how Monarch works is this. You have 9 tiles that everyone have that represents the kingdom. Because everyone assumes the role of a princess, and you have to impress your mother, the queen, by having the best court. So throughout the game, you're taxing villages, or you're harvesting from farms to gain food, to gain gold, to buy really cool cards that do really cool things. So it's, in a way, it's almost like you're playing. It's almost like a weird version. Of it's almost like a weird version of Ticket to Ride in a way, where you're just establishing the best kingdom, where in that you're building the biggest route or the collection of routes. But the funny thing about this is that the hate this game gets is because people assume the role of princesses. And my question is, if you're a guy, is your masculinity that fragile that you can't make believe for just 1 minute you're a princess? I'm like, the fact that the thing is, like, even assuming that role, there's hardly anything in the game that's effeminate whatsoever, except for like some items you can buy, which combs, certain robes and dresses. I'm like, okay, well, aside from that, it's you don't do anything. You don't understand the hate. A lot of really fragile men out there who just can't have fun. And that's a shame too, because that's a lot of fun. It's only a 4-player game, which kind of stinks, but it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Sean would be the prettiest. Sean is an adorable princess. No, I think you guys would actually really like that game. For one, it's one of those games where I can show you and you'll get it almost immediately. Very, very. My mother still had a hard time getting it, but that's because my mother, for someone in her 50s, she has the memory of a 90-year-old, unless it's musical knowledge from like the 60s and 70s, and then she'll get it every single time. So I think you guys would appreciate it. And I could see Sean being the fairest princess of them all and gaining favor of the queen. I mean, if that's what he wants. It's 2020. I don't assume anything of anybody. So, yeah. Those are some cool gaming things I got. Let's see. So, yeah, Catan. Oh, dear. So, yeah, Catan. Catan I got on Facebook Marketplace for $30 brand new, and I met them in the parking lot across from Destiny Mall, which shaved off an additional 30 minutes of traveling through a bunch of back-end roads, which I'm not a fan of. House of Danger was a trade with my brother. I think it was like a $25 for $30 value on those. I gave him a $30 game and gave me a $25 game, but honestly, the concept of this, I just seemed like it was more interesting. Monarch was about 25. Dice Tray was 8. Onitama was 17. So I did pretty good, and a lot of the money that was used for all of this was money I'd made from previous sales. So that feels even better, not having to dip into personal savings, rather than money I have come up with through my wheeling and dealing. So any new stories with you, Em, that you want to share? It's been kind of a low traffic show, but that's cool. It just feels like the Monday after Mother's Day, I just feel like it's like a crawl, and that's just with anywhere. Everyone's kind of recovering. I will say last night was my first attempt at making filet mignon inside of a cast iron pan. That was an awesome experience. I wish I had leftovers. I mean, I technically do, but I don't think I have time to defrost them because I have 3 portions of them sitting in the fridge. Because where I worked was selling them for $10 a pound, and I got a really good deal. So yeah, that was the dinner for Mother's Day. For lunch, it was me, my wife, my kid, my mom, and then my wife's parents came by. And for lunch, we just ordered a bunch of pizza from Domino's, and we hung out, played a game, and then everyone kind of bailed out. Everyone kind of bailed out. We didn't do a whole lot of gameplay, which sucks. I would love to be able to sit down and just put like several hours into some serious gaming. And with Central New York being able to really open up, potentially really opening up in the 4 days, you never know. Looking forward to getting out there and hanging out with some good people. Well, just people, good people, as opposed to all you bad folk out there. I'm really looking forward to get out there and spending time with people. And if there's one thing I have, learned from all this, is that definitely need to start making more time with friends and not be a homebody who's inside majority of the time. So, and that kind of brings us to the the big discussion, and that is the new Dead by Daylight 4th anniversary, which comes with it the announcement that we're getting a new licensed killer. The announcement trailer, teaser, whatever it is going to be on May 26th. And they were very, very particular as to how they worded this announcement. They said it was an emotional milestone, an iconic killer that's originated with the horror franchise for many, many years, and then it had a mysterious survivor. Now, I've watched several videos about this from people who do much better detective work on this than I do. And, well, right away, I mean, Freddy, Leatherface, Ghostface, the pig from Saw, like Michael Myers, they're already there. So you got to ask yourself who's left. And this is where it gets interesting, because right off the bat, we can say, like, it's revolutionary. So, a lot of people are thinking Pinhead from the Hellraiser series. I've seen Pennywise the Clown come up. I've seen the Xenomorph from Aliens, which would be so cool to have Ripley as a survivor. Oh, that'd be so cool. But they have a Demogorgon already in the game from Stranger Things, so I'm like, I don't think that's a really smart thing to do. They'd be almost too similar in styles. But and then there's a big one. Or then there's two. Then there was two that really popped up, which I found to be really interesting, and that were Candyman and the sixth one being Jason Voorhees, the killer, the big one, the big guy who's not been in the game at all. I think it'd be safe right now to disqualify the Xenomorph as well as Ripley, only because no one really finds Ripley too mysterious. She's pretty straightforward. She's just a really cool female hero who has fought off the aliens on more than one occasion. I think we can also disqualify Pinhead. Pinhead was actually one of my go-tos. And there was a screenshot of the IMDb game page, which listed the actor of the original Hellraiser, who had listed him as a voice credit to the game as Pinhead, until it was found out that it's just like Wikipedia. You can go in and you can adjust it however you want. So, basically, it really boils down to Pennywise, Candyman, Jason. I think it boils down to those three. But, this is where it gets fun. I mean, who else is left? Like, a friend of mine who puts up videos on their channel, they said it was Pazuzu from, I think it was the second what was it? The second Exorcist movie, and I don't follow the Exorcist movies. I couldn't tell you; they're not my cup of tea. But they said Pazuzu, and maybe the one of the lead roles. I don't know if Reagan would necessarily be that, but yeah, it's really interesting to see what we really found it. So we got to kind of look at the wording itself and see exactly like where everything would be. I personally, and of course the developers are having a little fun, and they're they're having a little fun with it, and they're tweeting back people, oh, it'd be really sweet, and they're referencing the Candyman killer being the new killer, and then my buddy APOC tweeted out and tagged one of the developers mentioning like, oh, is it Pazuzu from the Exorcist movie? And they're like, oh, you're going to need to get yourself an Exorcist. And I'm like, okay. So they're having fun with this. And I think they're doing this intentionally to mislead a lot of people. And one of the big ones that people were kind of swearing up and down was not going to happen was Jason Voorhees. And I can understand why, because his copyright right now his copyright is stuck in legal hell. The original copyright owner and the people who currently own it are currently in battle right now to get original rights to the Friday the 13th original killer, and part of that involves Jason Voorhees. And this has been going on for quite some time. This is the reason why Friday the 13th, the game, has had nothing new put into it, and major projects were scrapped because of this. Excuse me. So So the question has to be asked. Is it entirely out of the question? Well, and this just kind of came to light earlier today. Apparently, around April 1st, it was advertised that there was going to be a new board game focused around the Friday the 13th killer. Now, some people may know that there is a game called Final or Last Friday. It's heavily taken from the Friday the 13th series, but it doesn't actually include the name Voorhees in there. It doesn't use the same likelinesses and licenses. It's just a very loosely translated from that. So there's that. And it got me thinking, because this is licensed and it's set to come out soon. It's real. It does exist. I've seen pictures, and it is being offered for sale for $30-$40. So they got me thinking, if the company could acquire that, then maybe it's not outside the realm of possibility that Voorhees may actually be in Dead by Daylight. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but you know, I definitely could see it as a possibility. I mean, somebody asked the question, well, what if the developers for, what if Behavior Studio approached both parties and said, we want to use the license of this character in our game. We're willing to pay whoever outright owns this, and then we'll basically put money into like a separate account, like I believe he said an escrow account. And then when all this gets figured out, whoever rightfully owns it will then have right to it. So it really makes me wonder, man. I'll tell you, I tell you, Friday the 13th, like that, Jason. People ask Freddy versus Jason. I've been team Jason for years. I definitely think it's a possibility. And as far as a mysterious survivor, I mean, it really depends on which movie we're talking about here. The Alice, I don't find her she's not really mysterious. The final girl in the second movie, whose name is escaping me. The 3D movie, which is also escaping me, which is terrible. The fourth movie was Tommy Jarvis and his sister. The fifth movie was not Jason, but that was still Tommy Jarvis. The sixth movie was Tommy Jarvis. The seventh movie was a psychic girl. The eighth movie was trash. Jason Goes to Hell. I wouldn't necessarily call her mysterious. Like, when we get into mysterious characters, we really got to ask, like, where is it truly mysterious? And I think Tommy Jarvis I definitely would have to say, like, it would have to be, the sixth movie where he officially comes back from the dead. And then you got the psychic girl from from movie 7. I'd say that's mysterious, only in that regard. So it's possible. Now, if you kind of transition over to Hellraiser, none of the survivors are really all that mysterious. Maybe the lead girl is somewhat mysterious because of what happens in the first couple of movies, but if that's supposed to be like a red herring, and who knows? Candyman, I'd say, is the one that probably fits that one the best. Iconic killer, very underrated in the movie franchise, even though I do think the third movie is garbage. The second movie was okay. It wasn't as good. The first movie is iconic. It had such a huge overshadowed tone of like romanticism in a horror movie, none the likes of which we have seen since like the Universal monster movies. And then of course the mysterious survivor. I mean, that could be Helen from the first movie, or maybe they're working alongside Jordan Peele in the Candyman remake they're doing, and they're gonna have it as like the lead male role in that one. Who knows? So, Pennywise, as much as I'd like to see him in this game, there's no mysterious survivor in there, considering that it's all a group of kids who become adults, and really none of them are that mysterious. Now, if they pulled a 180 and they're like, oh, it's Georgie, that'll be awesome. Yeah, Jordan Peele is directing the remake for Candyman. Go check out the trailer when you get a second. It looks really, really good. No, he is directing this, and it looks really good. And oh my gosh, I don't know who did it, but they were talking about doing another reboot of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. They did a fan movie where Freddy would instead be played by a black-led actor. And it was a fan movie, like a short fan movie on YouTube, and it was done really well. And I'm like, you know what? Jordan Peele, if he can knock Candyman out of the if he can do Candyman, and from what it looks like, it looks great. And right now he's 2-0 as far as movies are considered. The man's brilliant. Not 100% a fan of his politics, but I don't judge politics when it comes to movies. Jordan Peele, if he could have gotten into movies like 10 years prior, I think the landscape right now could be so much better. I really do. He has got a vision and a drive and an appreciation and fondness for the horror genre that rivals so many people. And I think he is perfect to do with Candyman remake. With that being said, back to Pennywise, there's no real interesting Survivor, Mysterious Survivor. They're all it's all a group of kids who grow up and then fight them a second time. And then that's really it. Now, unless they want to pull a 180 and the Mysterious Survivor is like Georgie, but then again, they don't have kids as survivors. Agreed, as you know, and I totally agree on politics. So artful in his expression. Right. Like I can totally separate politics and the art because they don't go hand in hand. Although side quest here. He was getting crap because he had mentioned that he only wants to cast black people in his lead roles, and people were mad at him. Oh, how dare you? How dare you? First of all, that's his choice. And if you're going to get mad at him for doing that, then you can get mad at all those other stage producers and directors who do those all black cast productions of famous movies and productions, because they're telling it in a different way. The argument can be made, Get Out. Get Out, of course, was a movie based around how racism can exist in different kinds of socio-political climates. Us was more of a statement about people in general. Although I really have to sit down and watch it again, considering the fact that it's more of an outright in your face kind of movie in that regard, which I appreciate. It didn't have a ton of thinking in regards to it. It's not a job. It's a movie where people are typecast all the time. Yeah, absolutely. And if that's the case, then we can get mad at all the times where white people were cast in lead roles that did miserably as well. We can get mad at them too. If you're in a Chick-fil-A, which you would never, and only are black people, that would be different. Well, that's different. It's an equal opportunity. It's a job in which the opportunity has to be open to everyone. And if he's specifically only doing that to people of color, then yes, you'd have a horse in that race. But when it comes to a project that he himself is personally funding out of his pocket, which has a certain set requirement that he's looking for, he can do whatever he wants as long as he, is making sure people are getting paid right. So, yeah, I just wish he got into I wish he got into this years ago. But then if he did, we wouldn't have had that Key and Peele show, which is so awesome. Again, not a fan of their politics, but they're extremely smart, very well spoken, very funny, and extremely talented. And I'm glad we got them where we got them. So I'm throwing out Pennywise as a possible killer of the new chapter, or the 4-year anniversary. And the teaser picture is it's like a jagged gold 4, and a skull that's has kind of this black goop melting off of him. I'm really leaning towards Candyman. I really am, because there's some weird, awkward looking yellowish splatter along the sides of this teaser picture. And I'm thinking that's got to be honey because of all the bees. I'm really thinking this is Candyman. I really do. And if this is for the new movie, that's even more genius. So that kind of makes me wondering how they do killer perks in this game. Well, considering the fact that the Death Slinger, his perks are more geared around I'd say they're more geared around working around or finding where everyone is. I almost have to argue Candyman would have to be in the exact opposite, because look what he can do in the movie. He can teleport randomly. People can see, one person can see him, other people cannot. So there is some fun they can have there. There would definitely have to be a perk where if he can stalk one person long enough, then only one person can see him, but his terror radius still stays the same, meaning people don't know where he is. And then when the timer comes out, he can go after other people, but he wouldn't be able to obviously attack them while he's invisible to others. It's basically to jump scare him, although that would be incredibly overpowered, because then the minute he appears, he could instantly attack someone. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do it. I would love to see if they made like a meme perk based after the Wicker Man and like not the bees. That'd be hilarious. So my money right now is on Candyman, but if they could, I think it's a possibility. Jason could become the next killer. I really do. I think there's a ton of potential there, and I think if the people who own the rights to the board game, they're able to get the license to use, I do think it's not completely out of the realm of impossible to maybe get them if they got the rights to do the board game, to use the Voorhees name and Crystal Lake and all that. I don't see why Behavior Studios couldn't do it as well, and that'd be so awesome. But then you get the picture of the teaser, and I don't know. I think there's a ton of possibility, but as far as who would I personally pick, I'm also a fan of really bad B-rated like horror movies. Like they're just so comically bad, and I'm not talking like one and done bad. Like, oh my gosh, if they had the killer from the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies in there. And one of the perks is it's garbage day. I'd be done. It'd be so funny. Honestly, if I could pick one, it would have to be from one of the best, horror movies I've ever made. Better than Friday the 13th, better than Texas Chainsaw, better than Nightmare on Elm Street, better than Halloween. We need Evolver. That's what we need. Yep, that's what we need. We need William H. Macy voicing the killer robot Evolver, and it'll be the first time we get an actual full-fledged machine in this game. Yes, it needs to happen. Make it happen. I need a machine about half the size of an actual human being going around and hooking a bunch of people on hooks and shooting ball bearings and electrocuting people. Yes, that's what this is what we need. Or no, hold on to him. Wait until there's a huge lull in the series and bring him back, and he's the savior. He's the savior that we all need, very near and dear. Oh my God! Oh, I don't know why James A. Janice has not done a kill count with Evolver. Please comment someone to tell me if you've ever seen the movie Evolver. There's a classic line which I won't repeat, because I try not to use the colorful language on my channel. There's a line in the movie he repeats, and every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's right. You don't mess with him. It's so awesome. Never. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find something. Oh my goodness. I watched him. I tried to say I was in like my late teens when I heard of this, but it's so lame. No, there's a space in there. I gotta see if there's a trailer in. Okay, yeah, I think I found it. Hold on. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. So this is the clip for the trailer. I'm gonna take sound off and going to watch it. You'll hear it, but all right, here we go. Place your bets. Now accepting wagers for Kyle Baxter. Virtual reality god. Yeah, early virtual reality, like really early. Like reboot.
Baxter, you are the winner of the Evolver Home Contest. You did. Wow.
It looks like you won.
Hello.
Oh, there's some star power in this.
Okay, this is too intense. Evolver ready to play. Each time Evolver is defeated, he evolves up to the next level. Bullseye. Evolver hates to lose. Infiltrate. Attack. Need more power, where it gets smarter, quicker, and harder to beat. Now. Hey, Evolver. What's sword?
Strategic war-oriented robotic device.
This thing is destroying my house.
Interesting design glitch.
Advancing to next level.
I think there's something wrong with the Evolver.
Let's play.
This toy acts like it's playing for keeps.
I don't think you get how dangerous this thing could be. Come on.
Kyle, we cannot beat this thing.
Need more power.
Allie! Gotta get help!
Oh, this is so lame, but I love it.
Play with me.
Play with me.
I don't think so. I think it wants to kill you.
Oh my god, this is so bad. Oh man. Oh, hopefully the stream you're able to, because hey, just look up Evolver movie trailer. I think it's like the first one that comes up. Oh my god. Okay, so the premise of this whole movie is this kid won a virtual reality tournament in which he ends up getting an actual Evolver unit, which is a robot that you play against, and it's kind of like laser tag, except he shoots you with like, I think they're like Nerf. They're either like Nerf pellets or like plastic balls that he hits you, and once he hits you and makes contact with you, like you're out, and then you got to like hit certain areas on him in order to defeat him, and then once you defeat him, he then upgrades to the next level, and I think it's like 3 levels, and each level he becomes increasingly harder to win against because he learns from his mistakes, and and I don't want to spoil it, but he ends up plugging himself into like the internet, and he learns about like humanity and war, and he it's creepy but in a cheesy way, and I absolutely love it. Oh god, I'm gonna see if I can buy a copy. Emily, if you can find a copy of Evolver for me, I'll pay you straight up what you put into it. I'm not even joking. It's one of those bad movies you watch and like, oh, this is so dumb, but I love it. It's kind of like what it's a horror movie with Randy Quaid. I think it's called Parents, where like his parents kill people and then they eat that, like they cook and eat them. And it's so weird, and it's so awkward. Oh my gosh! Like, and I remember I don't remember the whole movie. I remember when I was younger, my parents owned a lot of horror movies on VHS, stuff what people didn't really know too much about. So like that and Ice Cream Man, I remember like those types of movie. Sleepaway Camp was one I didn't watch, and I'm kind of thankful I didn't. Otherwise, I would have had nightmares for weeks on end. Oh my gosh, that was something special. And the funny, and it is William H. Macy who's voicing Evolver. If you don't know who that is, what movies was he in? He played the father in Jurassic Park 3, who was married or divorced from Tia Leone. He's in a Showtime series, I think, called Undisputed. He was in Wild Hogs. He's one of those actors who's definitely been around for a while, but like you'll hear his voice and you're like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. So Evolver is the next killer. Don't quote me on that. So oh my gosh, that is so flippin' funny. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh man, anyone else got any funny horror movies? It doesn't have to be horror, but there's something so endearing about really low budget horror movies with stupid premises that I find so comically funny and almost like personally heartwarming. It's like these people tried. And clearly they're telling a really silly story, but they tried, and I appreciate the fact that they tried. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm trying to remember, like, in the movie, because I think he ends up, like, swapping out, like, his little Nerf pellets for when he shoots all the humans for like, ball bearings. And there's a scene where he's hunting a kid down, and not a kid, I should say. He's an adult. Or at least, he looks like an adult, but he's definitely not like a kid in this movie. That's one thing I definitely did appreciate with some of those movies is they made it very clear that they were going after, that if they wanted to, like, in movie, like, kill somebody, they went out of the way to make sure that they looked as old as they possibly could, because how often do you remember, like, when you remember, like, a child dying in a movie, especially, like, in a horror movie, it sticks with you. And I think if they did something like that, like, a good example is Maximum Overdrive. Amazing. I'm not calling this a B movie. This is like S tier. I love it. Movie about all the trucks that come to life and kill people. Pretty gruesome, some parts. And there was a scene in the movie that actually did get cut because a kid got rolled over by a steamroller. It wasn't so explicit that they needed to, but basically, like, it was a millisecond or two of frame that they had to cut out of the movie. But other than that, they kept 99.9 the rest of the scene. And of course, Emilio Estevez is in this movie, the savior we all need. So, oh my gosh, yeah. When this whole thing lifts, I don't know if you're into horror movies at all, but I'm bringing if I can get Evolver, I'm going to get that, and I'm going to get Maximum Overdrive. I'm going to grab some board games. Saturday the 14th. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. But when this whole thing is over, we're getting some really silly horror movies. I'm bringing some games, and we're gonna hang out and we're gonna have some fun. Oh my! I gotta show you Evolver. I'm hoping you appreciate. You can. I'm hoping you could appreciate it the way I can. You're gonna watch it and you're like, this is so dumb, but I like it. Oh, oh my gosh. Whew. So yeah, Jason Voorhees could be a killer in the next Dead by Daylight chapter, but we gotta wait 2 weeks before we figure it out. So that's fine. I do like how they keep adding to the game. I think, how many killers does the game have now? I want to say it has around 20. The game is 4 years old and it has over at least 20 killers and around 20 survivors. And then every 3 months they add a new killer, a new survivor, and a new map. The Death Slinger is good. The Survivor is good. The perks are getting interesting. It reminds me a lot of when I used to play competitive, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering. Like, the new sets come out and it just changes how everything is being played. And we're not quite at that stage yet, but we are kind of getting there, and it's really interesting to see. So yeah. So that's going to do it for this episode. Been going for about almost an hour and a half. I am starving. I want to eat something. Kind of a slow day, but that's cool. That's cool. Thanks again, Emily, for sending people my way, and I'll try to do the same I can for your channel. Send people your way. I am planning on watching your premiere video when it comes out, how to check game, older games, I believe it was. There was the picture of an NES game. I could probably help you on not help you, but yeah, you definitely want to look for that Nintendo seal of approval. You definitely want to look for that seal of approval. If it doesn't have the seal of approval on there and it's a first-party game, you've got a big problem on your hands. The weight's also a big factor in it. No, I mean, there's not a whole lot. I'm pretty sure you know what I know, and more so. But what I've very rarely came across a counterfeit. I can usually tell if it's counterfeit based on the label, based on the case, based on the weight. Those are the three big ones. Now, people have learned how to get creative and learn how to print labels, and you can usually spot a duplicate based on the quality. The problem with that is it's also becoming, I don't want to say it's becoming as almost as bad. But there was the story of people trying to pass off like counterfeits of little Samson, which are clearly duplicates. But yeah, the weight of it's always going to be lighter because the more rare the game, the more hardware is usually on the inside. And duplicates are usually super cheap copies that you can almost tell from weight. So if it feels too light, that could be a potential red flag. If it doesn't have the Nintendo seal of approval on the actual, like, on the sticker as well as on the card itself, could be an issue. And then of course, there's the pins. The pins will look a little bit different, but usually you can mask that pretty well. But the big thing is you always want to make sure you test them. But it's been a while since I've really looked at NES games, and the only time you really can, I mean, I've seen people try to pass off some seriously crap bootlegs, and it's usually fun when you can catch people in the act doing it, because then you can remind them, like, hey, did you hear about the story of those people selling those bootleg NES Classic consoles or those bootleg Nintendo Switches? Yeah, they're currently a lawsuit against them for millions of dollars against Nintendo. So unless you want that too, I believe you come clean right now, because to my knowledge, this copy of Super Mario didn't come in a red cart. So, yeah, it can, especially if Nintendo finds out, they'll ruin your life. They will 100% ruin your life, because they want to protect their bottom line. And I'm a little frustrated with Nintendo because they don't understand what it means to put their stuff on clearance, ever. They never put their first-party licenses on clearance. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to hold on to a Switch, because I got sick and tired of waiting for a lot of games that came out around launch to drop in price, which they weren't. So, yeah, I'll have to check out that video. Usually for me, my expertise when it comes to video games is more disc-based, because I always have a photo in my hand. If it's on my phone, it's on my phone, or I'm looking at what the game needs to look like, and the manual, the case, and all that. Yeah, poke, yes, though that's a big one. That's a big one. Those get counterfeit all the time. So, again, that Nintendo seal on the actual game case goes a long way. But I'm not gonna. That's not my expertise. My phone just went off. Could be potential sale in the works. Sorry about that. No, yeah, the Game Boy Advance games, people try to copy, like they always try to like cheap out. But the big ones for those are the color. It's the advanced games. They're very distinct color case, and they always have the Nintendo seal on the back. And then of course the big one is you got to be able to test them. Those are slightly easier to check. The other one is label placement and where the battery is on the inside of the case, I believe. I don't 100% know. But anyway, I'm starting to get dry mouth here. So I'm going to cut it here. Thank you for coming by and watching. And be sure to come by soon for another... I know I said last week I was going to get a game review out, but right now we're kind of in limbo with this whole house thing, and all of our attention's being focused on that. So get a video out when I can get a video out. And until then, I will see you all later.